All right, welcome everyone to the MPO this morning. We will go around. Let me do the accessibility statement in Title VI notice, and then I will have, I assume, Charlie read the roll for us. So this meeting is accessible to people with disabilities. Microphones or telephones will be used by all speakers. If you would like these accommodations, please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833, extension 202. Thank you. The notice of non-discrimination rights and protections to beneficiaries with regard to the federal Title VI non-discrimination protections and the state non-discrimination protections is included on this meeting's agenda, is available on the Lowell Colony Planning Council website at www.ocpcrpa.org. Please contact Mary Waldron at 508-583-1833, extension 202 for more information. Again, thank you. All right, so Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have City of Brockton. Anybody on the line from Brockton? Okay, Town of Plymouth, Lee Hartman.
Present.
Town of West Bridgewater, Meredith Anderson. Town of Whitman, Dan Salvucci.
Present.
MassDOT, Steve Wolfel.
Here representing Acting Secretary and CEO of MassDOT, Jamie Tesler.
Sure, thank you. MassDOT District 5, Pam Hasner.
Present, representing Administrator Gulliver.
Thank you. Brockton Area Transit, Glenn Geiler.
Morning, present, representing Michael Lambert.
Thank you. And Old Colony Planning Council, Mary Waldron.
Good morning again, everyone. Representing Christine Joy, President of Old Colony Planning Council.
So report there's a quorum present, 6 of the 8 are attending.
All right, thanks, Charlie. Again, welcome everyone. Let's move to agenda item number 2, public comment. Any members of the public would like to address the MPO today? All right, seeing none, we'll move to agenda item 3, which are the minutes of April 20th. Can I get a motion, a second, to approve the April 20th minutes? And please remember to say your name and your affiliation, please.
Yeah, Dan Salvucci, Whitman, I will motion to approve. Lee Hartman, Plymouth, second.
All right, any changes or comments on the minutes? Seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Yes, Plymouth, Lee Hartman.
Yes.
West Bridgewater, Whitman, Dan Salvucci.
Yes.
MassDOT, Steve Wolfel.
Yes.
MassDOT, Pam Hasner.
Yes.
Brockton Area Transit, Glenn Geiler.
Yes, for Michael Lambert.
You and Old Colony Planning Council, Mary Waldron.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, that passes. We'll move on to agenda item 4, which is the Brockton Area Transit Authority report. Glenn, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Michael did send me with a few updates this morning. He wanted to let everybody know that the BAT Center reopened, so the bus station reopened first week in May. We are hoping to go back to full capacity on all of our buses, and that's along with Governor Baker's reopening plan. And we are close on reaching an agreement with the MBTA, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and all the other RTAs that are in our UZA on the American Recovery Plan Act funds. Thank you.
Anyone have any questions for Glenn? All right, thanks, Glenn. Next item on the agenda is agenda item 5, which is amendment number 2 to the 2021 to 2025 TIP. Charlie.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we're here to report on TIP Amendment 2, the completion of the public review and comment period. You all, as the MPO, released this to a public comment period. And the amendment for this project, it's the student improvements at Richard Wilkins Elementary School, was the cost increase from essentially $3.2 million to $4.7 million. So we navigated the public review process, and here's a summary of the public comments received. On April 28th, at the public meeting of the Old Colony Planning Council Board of Directors, this was approved and reviewed by the Board of Directors. And at the May 6th, Old Colony Joint Transportation Committee public meeting. This was presented and approved by that committee. Staff reports that there were not any negative comments received, and it's staff's recommendation that the MPO entertain any further public comments at this meeting and subsequently consider approval. Thank you.
All right, can I get a motion to approve Amendment 2, please?
I will make that motion. Dan Salvucci, Whitman.
Lee Hartman, Plymouth, seconds.
All right, any questions for Charlie?
No.
All right, seeing none. Charlie, want to read the roll, please?
Yes, Lee Hartman, Plymouth,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci, Whitman,
Yes.
Steve Wolfle, MassDOT,
Yes.
Pam Hasner, MassDOT,
yes,
Glenn Geiler, Brockton Area Transit,
Michael Lambert, yes.
Mary Waldron, Old Colony Planning Council.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll move on to agenda item 6, which is the federal fiscal year 2022 to 2026 tip endorsement. Charlie, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So the MPO at their last meeting released the draft 2022 to 2026 Transportation Improvement Program to a public review and comment period. In summary, this includes 11 road projects and 1 bridge project, totaling about $62 million. And for the Brockton Area Transit, there's operational and capital assistance for about $45.3 million. And this is the preferred set of projects that use the MPO confirmed in March. I do note that during the public comment period, Glenn Geiler noticed there may have been an issue with the export of the actual project list. So what we did was work with that in MassDOT to confirm that this is the actual project list. And what you have on your screen right now, there was a difference in the funding breakout of one of the projects. It was the bus acquisition of the 3 buses. Originally, and what was in the draft tip was it was listed only in one place, but it's funded across 3 categories. So what you see on your screen now, it's not actually 9 buses, it's the purchase of 3 buses. So this is the accurate list, and it matches what's in the approved project list in Grants Plus. And I note that additionally, in 2026, it had listed the bus acquisition as hybrid bus, but it's an electric bus instead. So we made those corrections, and that's what we presented during the public comment period to the Joint Transportation Committee.
Okay,
So what we have here is a summary of public comments. I'll give this a rundown. So on April 28th, presented the draft tip to the OCPC Board of Directors, and they reviewed it and approved it at their public meeting. And the second comment here is the one we just talked about with coordination with BAD and Glenn Geiler. And the third comment was we presented this to the Joint Transportation Committee at their public meeting on May 6th, and they reviewed and approved it. Moving on to our next page, we had a comment submitted by Ben Muller from MassDOT, and what Ben did was he reviewed and provided the MPO liaison tip checklist. And you note that here, and I have the checklist later on in the slides, but fortunately it had nothing to. The comments were not related to anything with regard to project readiness or fiscal constraint. It was more of a technical comments, grammar, and some accessibility comments. And so we're going to work offline to align the final tip with the provided comments and suggestions. And we received a comment from Andrew Riovant from Federal Highway. And similar to Mr. Muller's comments, this was more of technical in nature, grammar, and questions with regard to equity and the environmental justice analysis, just making sure that the years and the cost dollar amounts for the projects over the time periods align properly. So staff is working offline to similarly to align the comments that Andrew provided with the final tip document. And those were the public comments that we had received. And on your screen now is what you can see what Mr. Muller provided. So it's a nice way to do it. So it goes down the list, and then there's a check or an X if there's like an issue that needs further adjustment. So the first one, please ensure figures 1, 2, 3 and 1-1 have appropriate alternate text. So this is a really clear menu for staff to review and then to go back and to work on the final tip. And then this is an export of Andrew's comments from Federal Highway. And I apologize for the smaller text, but it's more grammatical or just double checking some items. But importantly, it had nothing to do with saying, hey, it's out of fiscal constraint, or you need to do a remix of the projects, or this isn't going to be ready to go. So, we certain that we can successfully navigate these comments in the final version. So, and that concludes the summary of public comments. It's so we didn't receive any negative project comments per se, and it's staff's recommendation that the MPO consider any additional public comments and then consider endorsement of said tip.
All right, can I get a motion and a second to approve the 2022 to 2026 tip of the highway and transit element, plus including all the changes that Charlie just had from us, from Federal Highway and from Glenn at BAP. And then I'll open up if anyone had any specific questions related to those comments. So can I get a motion second for that, please?
I'll motion to approve Dan Sabucci Whitman.
Lee Hartman, Plymouth, second.
Anyone have any questions for Charlie, us, Federal Highway, Glenn? Is everyone good?
Going through it again.
All right. Charlie, read the roll, please.
Okay, Lee Hartman, Plymouth.
Yes.
Dan Salvucci, Whitman.
Yes.
MassDOT, Steve Wolfle.
Yes.
Pam Hasner, MassDOT.
yes,
Glenn Geiler, Brockton Area Transit.
Michael Lambert, yes.
Mary Waldron, Old Colony Planning Council.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Thank you, Charlie. Thanks you, everyone. Let's move on to agenda item 7, Old Colony MPO self-certs. Charlie?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So on an annual basis, the MPO reviews the self-certification compliance statement for the air quality planning for state regulation 310 CMR 60.05. More specifically, it's the planning activities related to the Global Warming Solutions Act. So we have 11 items here on your screen. I'll scroll through them. So part of this is to work to evaluate projects and plans and to report on the aggregate transportation greenhouse gas emissions. That's the CO2 impact of the regional transportation plans and the tips. And, we do that and it's reported out in kilograms. So this is just a narrative of the different steps. And this is similar to your 3C self-certification document process that you reviewed and approved at your last meeting. So these are just the steps that we're going to work with our regional partners at MassDOT to ensure that we're performing our tasks and reporting out in accordance with the Global Warming Solutions Act. So that's the list of the 11, and this is something that we do on an annual basis, and we've been doing it for some time. So staff recommendation to the MPO entertain endorsement of said self-certification statement.
All right. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the self-certifications, please?
Yeah, I'll motion Dan Sabucci Whitman.
Lee Hartman, Plymouth, second.
All right. Any questions for Charlie? Seeing none, Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Yes, Lee Hartman, Plymouth.
Yes.
Dan Salabucci, Whitman.
Yes.
Steve Wolfle, MassDOT.
Yes.
Pam Hasner, MassDOT.
yes,
Glenn Geiler, Brockton Area Transit.
Michael Lambert, yes.
Mary Waldron, Old Colony Planning Council.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
All right. Thanks, Charlie. Thanks, everyone. We'll move on to agenda item 8, which is the draft federal fiscal year 2022 Unified Planning Work Program. Charlie.
Busy man.
One of the action items before the MPO today is a review and release to a public comment period of the draft 2022 Unified Planning Work Program, which is the scope of work and budget for the transportation staff for the upcoming federal fiscal year. Funding is provided through a combined contract through MassDOT with funds from Federal Highway Administration, Federal Transit Administration, and those funds are matched by MassDOT. And there's funds also provided by the Brockton Area Transit. So what we have on your screen now is an overall table of contents of the UPWP. And it's broken into several main sections. The first section is introduction, and what you can see on your screen is a kind of a menu of items here, and it's an overview of the FAST Act, which is currently under continuing resolution, a discussion of the national planning factors and performance-based planning. Also included in the section is a description of Title VI and ADA, description of funding sources, and importantly here on item 1.4, it's about administrative modification and amendment procedures, because there are times that the UPWP may be amended just as the Transportation Improvement Program. So this articulates what the process is and what triggers an adjustment versus an amendment. And then also included in this section is a geographic description of major UPWP funded studies, and that's under element actually 3000, where it's like the major planning studies. And note that also in that section we've included an analysis of local highway technical assistance projects. So moving on to task 1000, this is management in support of the planning process. And there are 5 main items here. It's 3C program support, development of the next Unified Planning Work Program, operation of our public participation program, development of the Transportation Improvement Program, and then our activities with regard to Title VI and environmental justice. Task 2000 is our data reconnaissance, acquisition, and analysis activities. And in this section, we have items such as demographic and land use surveillance, our multimodal transportation data surveillance and system monitoring, system planning and resource, GIS, and importantly, one of the things that helps support this is the management systems. We have a congestion management process that's operated by Sean Bailey, our pavement management system, which is operated by Ray Garino, and our safety management system, which is operated by Bill McNulty. And then our travel demand modeling effort here, and I'd like to introduce Ho Chang Lee. He's our new hire. He started this week. So one of his chief activities will be operating a travel demand model. And then rounding out the UPWP, we have a couple sections here. Task 3000 is short range and long range transportation planning activities. So task 3100 is our regional transportation studies and intermodal planning. 3200 is our regional, our local highway technical assistance program, and it's something that the Bill and the staff work as a customer service to our communities. And this is, whether it's a level service analysis, traffic signal warrants, it's some of your low cost, high turnaround studies that might provide front end work to the MAP-IT program or TIP development projects. 3300 is a continuation of our road safety audits at multiple locations. This has been successful this year in implementing this. We've been holding these road safety audits virtually, and I believe we've had at least 5 or 6 road safety audits already this year, and we're looking to do about 20 this year. And then in the upcoming program year, we're looking to do between 15 and 20 as well. Task 3400 is something newer for us. It's the high priority quarter study screening assessment. And, as planners, one of the things we're looking forward to is the development of the next long range transportation plan. It's hard to believe that the time goes by fast, and the 2020 to 2024, 2020 to 2040 long range plan, is about only 2 years out for its development and endorsement by the MPO. So we thought that it wasn't too early to get going on kind of a needs assessment and screening of regional arterial segments across the region, where the pandemic has kind of altered some of our overall data and traffic counts. We didn't think it would be totally apropos to do a in-depth corridor study with a lot of data collection, as the numbers are evolving right now, and it's unknown what the new baseline will be. So what we think with this study is to do a screening assessment of regional arterial segments in terms of safety, congestion, proximity to transit, be it fixed route transit on rubber tire fixed route bus service or commuter rail, town centers, and then also proximity to environmental justice population. So what the end product of this will be is an overall screening assessment of all the principal arterials in the region, not, so this will not include the limited access highways of Route 3, Route 24, or Route 44. And then we'll come up with a prioritized list of locations to be studied in future UPWPs, and this will also inform the long-range planning needs assessment that we will be undertaking shortly. The next task is a regional planning and action plan. Over the years, we've done different freight planning activities, such as a intermodal connection study or a freight goods and mobility study. So similar to the previous study, the quarter screening assessment, this will be more of a needs assessment of the freight network, be it truck movement, industrial parks, access and egress, and this will help to inform the long-range transportation plan that we're going to be developing. And then rounding out this section is performance-based planning, and this is our effort to address the performance measures and targets, working in tandem with our regional partners and our state partners to address the requirements of the FAST Act. In task 4000, we have two main items in here, and that's the transit technical assistance, which is kind of a on the fly, ready to go support to Brockton Area Transit, GATRA, and BMBTA. And then we have a line item for BAT planning and technical studies. And a note under this one, these will be contract specific studies by and between Brockton Area Transit and OCPC. Each study will have a specific scope, cost, and timeline as a deliverable. An example would be the triannual Title VI report. Another example would be an annual ridership report, and that's something that Sean Bailey has prepared for multiple years now. And then we have a section on transportation planning staff who will be on the contract in the UPWP. And then last but not least, we have an estimated budget that provides cost estimates for each of the above mentioned tasks and subtasks. And then we have a section on the appendices, and we have an endorsement page, a self-certification statement, funding sources, and this provides other funding sources to Old Colony Planning Council. And then we have a section on the glossary of terms. And then we'll have a section that includes the results of the public review and comment period in the final document. So that's a quick overview of what's in the UPWP. It's staff's recommendation that the MPO entertain asking staff any questions, and then potentially releasing this to a public review and comment period. And then at your next meeting in June, hear results of the public comment period and consider endorsement.
All right, can I get a motion second to release the UPWP out for public comment, and then I'll open up to questions for Charlie?
Yeah, I'll make that motion. Dan Salvucci Whitman.
Lee
Mary
Hartman,
Waldron, Old Colony Planning Council.
What, Mary, you just broke up the streak.
Wow, you broke the routine.
I kept waiting for someone else and I gave up. But
I was
thank
just
you.
gonna say it was like pro forma, or at least one of you guys flip it. You go firstly or whatever, but wow, man. All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any questions for Charlie?
Oh, my God.
Cassie has her hand up.
Yeah,
Go
hey
ahead.
Steve, hey Charlie. I just wanted to give a reminder to update the amendment and adjustment sections of the UPWP. Federal Highway and FTA provided some guidance earlier in the year, which I believe changed the threshold. I think it was 10% previously from switching between tasks, and now that's 25%. So some of the other UPWPs we've looked at haven't revised that particular section. So just a reminder to do that. And then also for the tasks, make sure that there's a clear schedule defined in those as well.
Thank you.
Charlie, you want to respond?
So just to clarify, so it's no longer 10%, it's 25%?
Yes, we sent a letter on January 22nd. I can send it to you again, Charlie, but that outlines our guidance for development of the 22 UPWPs.
That would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Cassie.
Thank
We have the motion a second. I assume Dan and Mary, you're fine if
Yeah,
before
absolutely.
the goes out, any of the federal highway comments get addressed before Charlie packages it to go out for public comment.
Right.
Not a problem.
All right. Thanks, Cassie. Any other questions for Charlie? Mary, you see anyone else? We're good. All right. So all in favor, just with the changes federal highway Cassie brought up, making sure they go up before public comment. Charlie, you want to read the roll?
Yes, Lee Hartman, Plymouth,
Yes.
Dan Salvucci, Whitman,
Yes,
MassDOT, Steve Wolfle,
Yes.
MassDOT, Pam Hasner,
yes,
Brockton Area Transit, Glenn Geiler,
Michael Lambert, yes.
Old Colony Planning Council, Mary Waldron.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Hey, Lee, did you answer that quickly because you were afraid Mary was going to answer for you again?
It's called facilitating.
All right. With that, we'll move on to it. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Charlie. We're giving Charlie a break now, I think. We're moving on to agenda 9, impact of COVID-19 pandemic on highway safety. Charlie, is this Sean?
This is Bill McNulty.
Bill? All right, go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So indeed, we're giving Charlie a well-needed break here. So I have a short presentation, if you'll indulge me, on looking at safety impacts in the Old Colony region from the COVID pandemic that we all endured over the past 15 months or so. Back in March, we had a gentleman from Federal Highway and Boston University present to the Old Colony JTC, just big picture impacts that COVID had on transportation, both statewide and nationally. And it wasn't the focus of his presentation, but he had mentioned that the safety impacts that while there was a reduction in crashes, nationwide severity had gone up. And we had heard that anecdotally from our state partners and our federal partners, but we hadn't actually quantitated that yet to the Old Colony region. And just some background. So, as all you know, we have a safety management system that is a continual process. Here we routinely monitor highway safety in the region, and we do a variety of methodologies and products that come from this. Every year we produce a top 100 most hazardous intersections list, for example. It serves as the background to some of the other programs like the road safety audit program at multiple locations that we have going on this year and also next year. It provides the basis for that. So this is a continual process. So, we decided to, in addition to all those other tasks, to kind of take a look at specifically how the pandemic affected safety in the Old Colony region. And Charlie just, advanced the page and you see a table. So the one thing that we noticed was while there was a reduction in overall crashes from 2019 to 2020, it didn't fall at the same rate at as traffic volumes did. Traffic volumes last March just kind of fell off a cliff, and they kind of remained very low for a few months and then bounced back up towards early to midsummer. But we didn't, even though the crashes reduced, there was a reduction in the overall number of crashes, the rate of reduction wasn't the same as it was for traffic volumes. And we know, you can see in that table, crash severity really increased. The percentage of crashes in the Old Colony region that resulted in a serious incapacitating injury or fatality, incapacitating injury, I should say, really increased from the previous year. And the rate of fatal injury, there was a very modest increase, but an increase nonetheless. And obviously we want to see that decrease each year. So we, okay, yeah, so thank you, Charlie. So Charlie's advancing through the slides here, so just see, okay. So yeah, okay, just to kind of recap what I just said. So yeah, there was a reduction in the crashes, but severity went up. We noted that there was a recovery in vehicular traffic, but transit ridership remained low, still remains low, and that fatal crashes, there was a modest increase. If you want to advance to the next slide, please. And one thing that we had heard throughout the year last year from local police departments and state police was that speeds were way up. And when we resumed our own traffic data collection program last year, it was towards the end of July when we resumed that. We noted that the 85th percentile speed compared to previous years was up significantly across the board at all locations as well. So that was probably the main factor in why severity went up, speeds went way up. But we also looking at other factors as well. Were there social and physical factors that in drivers from the pandemic that were resulting in distraction, for example? Were there vehicle safety issues from the brief pause in vehicle inspections that, that's a potential issue? Was there an increase in substance abuse and perhaps an increase in driving under the influence? So, these are all, factors that we're considering. If you just want to advance to the next slide. So this is how crashes trended in that 2-year period. So you can see that dip beginning the beginning of last year, and then going into April, and then kind of increasing as towards the end of the year, but never really the same volume of crashes that we saw the previous year. Next slide, please. So this shows the rate of crashes that resulted in serious injury and fatality at those throughout the region over this 2-year period. And you can see the general trend was that it did increase from 2019 to 2020. That sustained peak in 2020 is greater than any sustained peak in 2019. We also, in addition to vehicular traffic, obviously we're interested in interested in crashes involving pedestrians and bicyclists. So this shows a trend in that. There was a dip in total pedestrian and cyclist crashes at the beginning of last year. Really, that decrease accelerated early into the pandemic, but then you can see in May, once the weather got nicer, people started getting out more. The number of crashes involving pedestrian and bicyclists really accelerated in May. And I think there's a combination of factors. Again, it was speeds were up, but there was just greater numbers of people both walking around and cycling. I think during lockdown, people just got tired of being in their houses and just wanted to be out. So there was increased exposure. There was a slight increase in the percentage of those crashes are resulting in injury, but that the orange shading on those bars is the percentage of the total that resulted in serious injury or fatality, and they more or less remained static from the previous slight increase. So so we looked at the whole region as a whole, but then we started looking at individual corridors, and one thing that we noticed was so that the impact seemed to be greater on the non-limited access highways than it was on like the Route 3 corridor, the Route 24 corridor. So this is the total number of crashes on Route 3 over that 2-year period. Again, you can see that big dip at the beginning of last year, and then it starts to come back. This shows the rate of crashes that resulted in serious injury or fatality on Route 3 over that 2-year period. And generally, you can generally remained fairly static. It's kind of up and down, but it was more or less about the same as it was in 2019. For this, again, this is Route 24. Interestingly enough, the dip on total number of crashes on Route 24 wasn't as dramatic as it was on Route 3. But nonetheless, you do see that decrease at the beginning of the emergency last year. And this is again, the rate of crashes with serious injury or fatality on Route 24. This time around for Route 24, the rate was generally a little bit higher in 2019. I'm sorry, in 2020 than it was in 2019, but still more like, there wasn't a dramatic increase in the severity from what we can see. It's had a lot of those up and down peaks, just like in 2019. And so this is our Route 106. So, we picked this at just an example. We are looking at all the corridors in the region, but so Route 106 is one of the longer state number routes in our region. Starts on the western end of the region on the eastern border, and then goes eastward all the way through the region down to Kingston. So I figured this was a good one to look at. It goes through some relatively urban areas, also very rural areas. So you can see that that the overall number of crashes did reduce in 2020 from 2019. And this is the rate of crashes that resulted in serious injury or fatality on Route 106. And here you can see a much more sustained increase in that rate in 2020 over 2019 than you saw on the limited access highways. And this is the general trend that we're seeing on these secondary arterials through the region versus the limited access highways, that for whatever reason the impact was greater on these roads that serve the local areas versus the regional travel routes. So that's just kind of a quick sample of the analysis that we're doing. If you have any questions or thoughts on this, I welcome them. I take them right now, or if you have any after this meeting, by all means, you feel free to email me or contact me. I know that I gave this presentation to JTC, and following that, somebody had asked about the impact of recreational marijuana on safety in the Old Colony region. So that's another thing that I'm looking at. But
Read my mind.
Thank you. I'm glad. Any other questions or comments?
Any questions for Bill? I don't hear any. All right, thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to agenda item 10, which is administrative matters. Charlie?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So on your screen, you have listing of upcoming MPO meeting dates, June 15th, July 20th, and August 17th. So we asked MPO to please save those dates.
So I'm going to guess that the 15th is when the state of emergency is lifted, that we may very well be in person on that one.
We don't know yet. Lee.
Nice.
Yeah, we don't know yet, Lee. We're gonna have to figure out, we're gonna have to talk to the secretary and get a better sense of what
I
that
can tell you,
means.
yeah, in light of having no additional language coming from the state, we're advertising for in person for all of our stuff in June because we have no option without any guidance.
Okay,
Be interesting to see how that works out.
yep. We'll be in touch as soon as we have a little bit better sense. Charlie, I see the other thing is the administrative manager pushing the innovation conference, which is next week. People who have not registered, please note, today is the last day to register. So you need to register. We have plenty of spaces, but you need to register today. Otherwise, I have limited ability to help after that because we need to turn everything over to the platform. So try to register today. And those are the 5 tracks of kind of the framework of the conference. And within those, we have a bunch of sessions. So we also have a few acting secretary Tessa will be speaking on Tuesday afternoon. Secretary Slater of Maryland will be speaking Wednesday, and Secretary Wilson of Louisiana will be speaking on Thursday. So please try to join us. Any other stuff, Charlie?
So we have something here. It's the 2022 capital investment plan for the MassDOT. This will be a 1-year maintenance of effort plan. And we have a menu of several public meetings from May 25th through June 3rd. And I have a highlighted June 2nd at 6 p.m. And this is for the Southeastern Mass and the Old Colony region. And you can find more information at mass.gov/CIP.
All right. Anyone else have? Oh, go ahead, Charlie.
So just continuing on the popularity of the MassDOT Shared Streets and Spaces program, applications are being accepted until Friday, May 21st, and please visit the mass.gov/mass Shared Streets and Spaces grant program. And last but not least, USDOT is advertising the availability of raise grants, previously billed, previously Tiger. Application to apply is July 12th. And there are some hyperlinks here. You can visit the website for more information.
All right, Mary, you have something?
All I just wanted to say is just say thank you to everybody in the beginning for your patience. Once again, OCPC staff pivoted, pandemic, wireless, whatever it is, but appreciate first again, all the work of the staff. It's just terrific. And then to our partners and to our federal and state funding sources, thank you for the communications and the dialogue that keeps us all moving forward. So, and again, to the MPO voting members, thank you to Dan and to Lee for me interrupting the vote earlier. But again, your input in this is also so important in understanding. And as we go back to council at times when the discussion comes up, your involvement is really appreciated. So thank you, everyone.
All right. Anyone else have any administrative matters?
Yeah, I have, just to remind the board that I was reelected. And for a term, another 3-year term as a selectman in Whitman. But the election is being challenged because I won by 6 votes. So we will go and I will know. And once she gets the signatures in, my opponent by the 25th of this month, then we have to set up something and we'll have a recount. But I don't see an issue because there was 6 questionable, I won by 6 ballots and there was like 3 questionable ballots. That's it. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, we'll stay tuned. We'll hold that congratulations to it's official, Dan. How's that?
Yeah. Well, it's official right now. I have been sworn in.
All right. Well, then congrats.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
All right. Anyone else? All right, can I get a motion second to adjourn, please?
Lee
Go ahead,
Hartman
Mary,
moves.
motion, go ahead. All right,
I
I'll
gotcha.
second then, Lee.
All right, whoever's doing the minutes, I don't know what the heck that was and how to deal with that.
That was my motion first. I beat him this time.
Right, and I second it, Dan.
All right,
wanna
so
pick-
Lee,
We want to push Mary out.
Lee first, Dan second. All in favor of adjourning before we lose total control of this meeting, please say aye.
All right.
Any opposed,
Oh,
any
that's so
abstentions?
funny.
All right, everyone, good to see
All right,
everyone.
thank you.
Stay safe. See you next month. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, what craziness.